Hey everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be taking a look at augmented reality.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Specifically, Meta's smart glasses.
All right.
So we received a listener question about a tech podcast they were listening to that was discussing them,
Okay.
and they were curious about our take on it.
Yeah, makes sense.
So that's what we're diving into today.
Sounds good.
So to give everyone some context, these glasses that we're talking about are not just like adding a camera or, like a notification screen
Right.
to a pair of sunglasses.
Right.
They're being touted as like
Yeah.
a full-blown extension of your phone.
Yeah, it's interesting how Meta is framing these glasses, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not just an accessory.
Right.
This is, like you said, a full-blown extension of your phone.
Exactly.
It's supposed to be like a window into the metaverse.
Right in your field of vision.
Which is kind of like what this podcast was getting into.
Oh.
They were describing it almost like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Oh, wow.
Where, like,
Okay.
imagine you're walking down the street and you want to get directions. Instead of pulling your phone out,
Right.
they just pop up
Yeah.
like right there on your glasses.
That'd be pretty cool.
Or like you want to know if that cafe is still open.
Uh-huh.
The hours of operation just like appear as you look at the building.
That's like straight out of a movie.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of the idea that they're going for.
Yeah, and that's really the core of augmented reality, right?
Right.
It's this idea of like merging the digital and the physical worlds in
Yeah.
ways that we haven't really seen before. Right. And that's where I think it's really cool and exciting, but also
Right.
it brings up some concerns.
Yeah, and the podcast hosts definitely picked up on that.
Okay.
They seemed really excited about the features like the real-time translation,
Oh, yeah.
hands-free communication,
That would be awesome.
which, let's be honest, those sound pretty awesome.
I know who hasn't been in a situation where they're like, I wish I had a universal translator right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, they were joking about like, you could just be looking at a menu at a restaurant in a foreign country
Yeah.
and just like read the reviews.
Yeah, just like instantly know what to order.
Right.
Exactly.
But then they brought up a good point, which is
Okay.
the elephant in the room,
What's that?
which is Meta's history
Yeah.
with data privacy.
Right.
And, this is something we've talked about before,
Of course. Yeah.
but this isn't just your phone collecting data in your pocket.
Right.
This is a device that could potentially be recording like your every glance,
Yeah.
every conversation.
Yeah, it really brings up a whole other level of concern
It does.
because it's not just about the data itself.
Yeah.
It's about like what that data represents.
Right.
Like it's one thing to know what websites I visit, but it's another thing to know like literally where my eyes are looking in the real world.
Exactly. And they did touch on how,
Right.
Meta claims that these glasses are designed with privacy in mind.
Okay, sure.
But I think they were a little skeptical.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that.
Yeah, and they even made a funny comment about Meta like suggesting friends for you based on who you make eye contact with on the street,
Oh, wow.
which I thought was kind of funny,
Yeah.
but also kind of like, oh,
Yeah, a little creepy.
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a little too close to home.
It is a little too close to home.
Yeah, and I think that really highlights the tension here, right?
Yeah.
You have this incredible technology that could potentially revolutionize how we interact with the world.
Right.
But on the other hand, you have a company with a track record that makes you question whether or not they can be trusted with that level of access to our lives.
It almost reminds me of Google Glass
Oh, yeah.
a few years back,
Totally.
where
I see what you mean.
the technology seemed kind of promising,
Yeah.
but people just weren't ready for it.
I think that's a really good comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like,
And they even called out the whole like glass hole thing.
oh, right.
Like people just weren't
It was just a little too much,
Yeah.
too early.
too early.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
like even if Meta addresses the privacy concerns,
Right.
and even if the glasses work really well,
Right.
will people want to be seen wearing them?
Yeah, that's the big question, right?
Yeah.
Like, is the world ready for this?
Exactly.
And I think the podcast actually made a good point about that.
Okay.
They were saying that like Google Glass was probably just ahead of its time
Okay.
because back then
Yeah.
wearable tech was still kind of like a novelty.
Right.
Like nobody was really using it.
It wasn't that normal.
Yeah, but now we're like glued to our smartphones all the time.
Pretty much.
So maybe
yeah.
the jump to smart glasses isn't as big as it seemed back then.
That's true. And I mean, think about it. Like,
Okay,
we're already more used to the idea of augmented reality.
that's true.
I mean, how many people were out there just like a few years ago
Yeah,
catching Pokemon?
right, with Pokemon Go.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
that was like a huge deal.
It's true.
And they even suggested that, like, games and entertainment could be what gets people
Makes sense.
on board with this.
Because it's fun. Right.
It's not like...
Yeah, it's not as scary.
Exactly.
It's not like I have to, like, work or whatever.
It's not like your job depends on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So...
And that's where I think the competition comes in.
Right, because it's not just Meta.
Exactly. It's not just Meta.
There's other players.
Yeah. And the podcast did a good job of breaking some of them down.
Okay, cool.
Like, they talked about Microsoft's HoloLens too.
Oh, yeah. Those are cool.
Which, from what I understand, is really cool. But more for, like...
It's more niche, right?
Yeah.
It's not for, like, everyday consumers.
It seems like a lot for just, like, scrolling through social media.
Yeah, I think they're going more for, like, professional uses.
Right.
Like, imagine you're a surgeon.
Right.
And you can see, like, a 3D model of the patient's heart. Right in front of you.
That's pretty cool.
Or if you're an engineer.
Yeah.
And you can, like, interact with a virtual prototype.
I see what you mean.
So it's really cool technology. Yeah. But it's definitely not...
Not for everyone.
Not for, like, everyday use.
Right. It's a very different market than what Meta's going for.
Exactly.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, it's like comparing a high-end workstation computer to, like, a sleek Ultrabook.
Right.
They're both computers.
Right.
But they serve different purposes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you have things like Snap Spectacles.
Oh, yeah.
Which...
Those seem fun.
Yeah, they're definitely more on the, like, fun, trendy side.
Yeah.
Which makes sense for Snap.
Yeah.
They're all about, like, social sharing and capturing experiences.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you have Nenreal Air.
Okay. Haven't heard much about those.
Yeah, they're a little bit more under the radar.
Okay.
But they're focusing on, like, media consumption. Oh. So imagine, like, watching movies on a huge virtual screen.
Oh, cool.
Or, like, playing games with a wider field of view.
Interesting.
So they're all tackling the same challenge.
Okay.
Right? Which is, how do you make AR glasses functional and socially acceptable?
Right, because
it's one thing to have the technology.
Right.
It's another thing to get people to actually wear it.
Oh, right. It has to be cool.
Exactly. It has to be something that people actually want to wear.
Exactly. It seems like everyone's really excited about AR and tech right now.
Yeah, it's definitely got a lot of buzz around it.
But like you were saying before, will people actually wear these things?
Right. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the technology can be amazing.
Right.
But if nobody wants to use it...
It's pointless.
Exactly. It's like all those futuristic gadgets you see in movies.
Like,
They look cool, but are they practical?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the podcast brought up some really valid bets.
Oh, yeah, they had a lot of those.
Like battery life, for example.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Imagine you're using all these cool AR features, and your glasses just die.
In the middle of something.
Right. Not exactly the seamless experience they're promising.
Yeah, you'd look pretty silly.
You'd look like you were stuck in a frozen hologram or something.
Yeah, And then there's the whole learning curve.
Oh, right.
Like, how do you actually use these things?
Right. Is it going to be intuitive?
Yeah.
Are we going to be walking into walls because we're trying to swipe through notifications in midair?
I could see myself doing that.
It's like, okay, this is cool, but also maybe a little dangerous.
Exactly. And then there's the even bigger question.
Okay.
Like, beyond the technology itself, how much do we really want to merge our digital and physical lives?
That's a big one.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we really need to be connected all the time?
Yeah. I mean, I love my phone.
Of course.
But sometimes I just want to, like... Disconnect.
Go for a walk without seeing notifications.
Right. Or, like, actually have to, like, look at a map.
Exactly. Remember maps.
I know. It's kind of sad.
It is a little bit.
And I think it's a really important thing to consider.
It is. It's a question we're going to have to grapple with more and more as technology progresses.
Exactly. And we want to hear from you, our listener.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on all of this?
What excites you about AR?
What scares you? Let us know. Because this is a conversation that we all need to be a part of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a fascinating one.
It really has. And until next time, keep exploring.